Thank y'all for being here. Hit on the Pitt game, and then we'll move on to the Kansas Jayhawks. I put out that video on Sunday. Basically said to the fans what I wanted to say. I thought it was a great atmosphere. Um, I appreciated everybody for showing up. I thought it was one of the best atmospheres I've ever been a part of in college football. I thought our guys competed hard, played the game the right way, and just made some mistakes at some critical times. Talk about each phase offensively. I think the positives are we ran the ball really well. Had over 100-yard rusher versus Pitt gave up a 100-yard rusher for the first time since 1999. We ran for the most yards they've given up since late '99. Thought JT was sharp, especially for a first game. Taking under consideration he wasn't here in the spring, and we made quite a few explosive plays. Things we got to improve on. We didn't catch the ball well enough. Somebody asked this. I can't remember who it was. Somebody asked this in the press conference, and I apologize because they asked the question, and we did. We dropped, I think, 6 balls. I think I minimized that, and I was wrong. We dropped 6 balls in the game, and but I don't apologize how I answered that other question. But that one I do apologize for because that was whoever asked that they were correct. We dropped 6 balls. And we got to clean up some protection issues up front. And part of that is their front's really good, but we give up too many hits. Defensively, I thought the positives are we stopped the run. I thought we controlled the line of scrimmage. And that's versus a group that was playing 6 and 7 offensive linemen. And I thought we got really good pressure on the quarterback. Things we have to improve on. We got to tackle better. That's something that we've done really, really well here over the last 3 years. That's a standard as we tackle well. Been one of the top tackling teams in our conference and in the country. We got to do a better job of that, especially late. We didn't tackle very well. We had some alignment issues, and some of that is they gave us some looks that we weren't expecting. I talked about the 6th, 7th offensive linemen. They went more empty than they had shown, and we gave up too many explosive passes, and they missed a couple that were there. Special teams blocked a punt. Really good job by CJ. And really, Del Negro's one that kind of forced that. And then our kickoff coverage, which was a point of emphasis, was really good. Really, the only poor thing special teams was things that we got to get better at is our decision-making kickoff return. We should have let a couple of those balls go. Really shouldn't have had a return on maybe one return on the whole evening. So our decision-making's got to be better there. But I said I'm proud of our guys. I thought we had a chance to be a good football team going in. Coming out of that game, after watching it, I know we do. We're much improved. Look like a totally different team than how we finished in the bowl game, which was the expectation, and that's definitely what we saw on film. So, moving on to Kansas, kind of give they're 1-0, obviously big win over FCS opponent week 1. I think it starts with them. They're well coached. Have a lot of respect for Lance going back and his staff, which are a lot of the same guys going back. We played them in a bowl game when he was at Buffalo and we were at Troy. They're disciplined. They don't beat themselves. They got low number of turnovers. They don't have penalties. And they're playing with a lot of confidence right now, and they should. If you think about their last 4 games, go on the road and win at Texas, losing the last possession on the road at TCU. Our 21 team, it's a 1-possession game. They lose at home with a bunch of injuries. Both sides had a bunch. And then they win big. That's their last 4 games. Those are and they have belief. They're playing, like I said, they're playing well. They're a good football team. I think at the end of the year, you're going to look back and say, hey, this is one of the most improved teams in the entire country. Give you kind of a snapshot of who they are. Offensively, they're multiple. They use motions and shifts. They do a great job of moving guys around and figuring out ways to run the football and get some shot plays down the field from a schematic standpoint. Their quarterback, Jalen Daniels, we talked about last year, and they're just a different team with him playing quarterback. He's got confidence. He's a dual threat guy, but he's a passer first. He's athletic enough to run, but he's a passer first. He's accurate. He throws the deep ball well. They've hit some explosive plays. And I think that was, you saw that against Texas last year, and then he did it again in their first game this year. Running back room, they're as deep as anybody in our league. The Neal kid is really good. Then they got the Thomas guy that was in Minnesota last year who ran for a bunch of yards. They got a Nebraska transfer. They've got another kid that's a big physical kid, number 20, that set out last year. So, I mean, they're 4 deep with legitimate upper end Big 12 running backs. Play 3 tight ends. They throw the ball well to them. Receiver, they had a couple big plays last week, and I think their left tackle and their center are upper tier Big 12 offensive linemen. The left tackle is really good, and he's athletic. He caught a 2-point conversion versus the 21 team. Defensively, 4 down front. I think for them it starts with their safety, Kenny Logan, all Big 12 performer last year. Really good tackler. I think he's their guy that gets them lined up in the back end. He's really sharp. You can tell he's an intelligent football player. At corner, they've really improved. They're long and athletic. They played some young guys there last year, and I think it's paying off for them. But they've got some depth there. And linebacker, they've added a couple transfers, and a couple guys that played for them last year have improved. You can tell that they've gotten faster and stronger. And then D-line wise, they're a veteran group. They play about 7 or 8 guys. Some big body guys. They got a transfer from Miami, Ohio, who had a big game in the first game, and he had some impressive pass rush numbers at Miami there as well. Special teams, Logan is a kickoff returner. He hurt us last year, hit us with a big one. He's one of the better ones in our league. Grimes is a slot receiver that punt returns. I think he went over 100 yards in 21. Their kickoff guy is really good. So that's kind of a picture of who they are. Very, very, very improved football team, well coached. We'll have our hands full, but we're looking forward to getting back to it. Got our first really work day since the Pitt game today. So with that, I'll take questions.
So, Neal, start with your secondary. You alluded to the tackling wasn't what you wanted. You think it was just a matter of all those guys having not played together in a game that they can be good enough, or what'd you see out of that?
No, I think it's a fundamental deal that, we know how to get better at it. Like I said, I think it's been a strength of ours, Greg, for 3 years. We've been a good tackling team. So we'll get back to work on it. We did some things on Sunday, and we'll get back to work on it today as well. A lot of it's just being in position. There's some fundamental things as far as what we call keeping our ball foot up, keeping our eyes up. You got to wrap up. We didn't wrap up as good as we needed to. And not to take anything away, there's some pretty good players they were trying to tackle too. Down and around deep in the red zone, it's a pad leverage deal. We were playing too high, and so we've got to get our pads down so we can stop people.
Injuries.
Sterner got a lot of playing time, especially on your 4-man front. Seems like his progression arc has been really good. Starting with the bowl game last year, what have been the keys to his improvement?
Well, he just plays super hard. Relentless is a word that I use with him a lot. He's a fun guy to coach. Coach Leslie gives him a hard time. He says yes and no and coach. And but now he knows he's really an intelligent guy, but Coach Leslie gives him a hard time on that. But he's a fun guy to coach. He's gotten progressively better. He's been intentional about learning football. It's obviously new to him. He's picked up on it faster than our other international players to this point. And he does a good job he plays with low pads, and he uses his hands well. And he doesn't stay blocked. A lot of times you'll watch a lot of D linemen, if you stop their initial charge, then that's about it. But he like I said, relentless. He's got a great second effort, and he's going to continue to play. He's a guy that's got some versatility because he can play our 1 technique, our nose, and the 3 technique. Greg, you were asking about injuries. Well, I really don't know just yet. We're waiting on some guys. Obviously, Charles Woods got hurt in the game. I don't really have an update on him right now. Jordan White, he's moving around. I think he's probable for the game. No more after practice today. But those or anybody else? He didn't play. He'll be questionable again. He has not practiced since our second scrimmage full speed. He's going to get some work today. Tomorrow we'll kind of see, but I would say questionable for him.
Jalen also didn't. I know he's got an injury. Thornton.
So Thornton, he was out. That was in the he's been limited. I think he's probably another week away.
Is there room for his role to continue to grow?
Yeah, well, I sit up here and I've said his name several times during fall camp. And that doesn't always translate, in fairness to him. Sometimes when the lights come on, some of those guys that played really well in fall camp, but we felt like it would, but you're never sure, and so I think you're always hesitant to put too much on a young player early on. But obviously in the first half he had the big run, and then we got him more involved there in the second half, and I think his role continued to grow without a doubt. He played well, and some of it was timing too. He got in at the right situation, and I think he'll be the first one to tell you. We blocked pretty well when he was in there. The thing that I like about him and that Chad likes about him is he's decisive. He doesn't stop his feet. He makes a cut, and he goes. He had one bad run on a I think it was a 3rd and 3 or 4 where he fell down. Just fundamental issue. But other than that, all his runs were productive.
What was he in pass protection?
He did a great job. That's the thing where you get really concerned about a young back, and he did a really good job. And I think if we went back, we probably would have played him a little bit more later, just because when you get in a game and you're in a flow, you have a plan, and that was one of our concerns was in pass protection. Because especially in the first game where you don't really know what your opponent's going to do. But man, he picked up number 7 2 different times, and one of them was a big time collision, and there was no flinch by him. And that was as impressive as anything that he did all evening, including the block punt to me.
Does size help him in that regard?
Well, size helps in everything. You know what I mean? He's a big kid. Yeah, it does. It does. There's still technique though, because even with a bigger guy, whether it's a tight end or a running back in pass protection, if your guy ducks your head, it doesn't matter. But what he does is he keeps a really good base. He keeps his head back, which gives him an opportunity.
I know obviously you don't know about Charles yet, but not having him, not having McCormick in the first half, how does that change things for you?
Well, it hurts. It definitely hurts. McCormick, he won't be available for the first half, and that was a good call. That was targeting by letter of the rule. Where I get confused is we say we want to take these violent hits out of the game, and that if we were going to talk about violent hits, that was way down the line on violent hits, but as it reads, that was a good call as far as helmet to helmet. So he'll sit out, and we'll just have to get some other guys ready. That's the thing about injuries, or if you're talking about targeting, it creates it's one person's bad luck or however you want to say that, but it's an opportunity for others. And we do feel like we have more athleticism in that room, that with guys we can play. Ruffin's played corner. Lamp is at a point where he's ready to play. Jacoby Spells is a really highly regarded freshman. Mumu came in the other night and played a few snaps, and he's a guy that played at a really good high school football where they played a bunch of big games, so it's not going to be too big for him. So we've got options, and those guys are going to have to get ready to play if Charles can't go.
What did you learn about JT in his first game?
Well, one thing, Bob, that I really felt like going in, but until you play a game with somebody you don't truly know, is felt like he'd be even keel. I didn't think that a hit would bother him, or a drop pass, or any kind of setback, and he was really even keel. Thought he was really good in game, being able to tell you what he saw, and that's not the case with every quarterback. So I think that was something that was extremely positive. I loved the interview that he did after the game. I thought I can do without the language, but I thought just talking about his teammates and his belief, I thought that was powerful stuff. But I thought he threw the ball really well. We dropped 6 balls for probably 100+ yards, and if you're sitting there looking at his stats, and you put those 6 passes in with those yards, that's a wild type game. And so really proud. I think we'll continue. He'll only continue to build off that too.
Yeah, when you slip Mumu in place of McCormick, pre-planned? Are you winging it at that point? I mean, is there an if-then scenario for your fourth cornerback and a quick change like that?
Yeah, so Shadon, he had a plan. It's probably better for him, but you always go through these. We do this little exercise on Thursday and Friday. You say, what if? And I always say, hey, okay, what if this? Well, what if that? And the reason is because it makes you have to think on a fly like you would in a game. And that was, people forget, that was a big play. We had them 3rd and 5 inside maybe inside the 15, but inside the 20 for sure. And then that penalty makes it first. They get an automatic first down, and then we've got to switch kind of what we're doing on the fly. And we were in a pretty good rhythm. We had 2 stops in a row where they kind of went backwards. But no, it's a gut feel. As far as that goes, as far as who goes in. And then this week, what we'll do if Charles can't go, then we'll have full-fledged competition, and we really started it with Sunday. We're practicing on Sundays now, and so we played our Sunday night football, and we got all those guys a lot of work, and we graded it. And today's and Wednesday's practice will determine really who's the first one in and who's going to play.
And then, as much as you can say, the conversation with the league office after a game.
Yeah.
Is there any? And then, I mean, is it? Never mind the outcome, but like the nature of their responses to you and your questions.
Yeah, I think that, and that's a great question. So Greg Burks handles the officials in our conference, and our commissioner was at the game, and he was helpful. And Greg does a really good job. He does a good job. I don't have any complaints with him. I think the game's extremely hard to officiate. My issues in the game were the first one was on. I knew both those guys fair caught the ball. Okay, so on the start of that last drive, I knew both of them fair caught the ball. All right, and it just took them longer to get it right, but they got it right. So credit to them. And then as far as the last catch or non-catch goes, is there's two plays that went to replay. That went to replay that on their last scoring drive when they were on offense, they threw the ball to the tight end across the middle. They called it a catch on the field, and they let it stand. I think that's what they said, is they let it stand. And to me, the ball hit the ground, okay, which I think you can see on a shot. And so the ball that Reese caught or was ruled a catch on the field as well. It goes to replay. You can see it hit the ground just like you can see that other ball hit the ground. So my argument is either both of them are catches or neither one of them are catches. And that's where – and we just agreed to disagree on it. But it wasn't hostile or anything like that. But you have those discussions. And I think our league office does a good job of responding. I was frustrated at the end of the game because I didn't get a response from the head official and when I called that timeout. And I called the timeout to get a response because I wanted to know what was said on replay, and he's the only one that knows. So that's why I was frustrated at the end of the game. But it's a hard game to officiate, but we just Greg and I kind of agreed to disagree. But I have faith. I thought the game overall it's a really emotional game that I thought was officiated pretty well, all in all.
The simulation of snaps seems like that's going across a lot of
Yeah.
defensive lines, offensive lines, but it seemed like you were able to police that during the game too.
Well, it's a point of emphasis this year in college football, and I think it's bad for the game. It's bad for the game, and the problem is it's officiated in different leagues differently up until this year, but it's a point of emphasis across college football. So every league, once there's a point of emphasis, every league's going to officiate it the same. Supposedly, anyway, that's what's supposed to happen. But yeah, so thought they missed. They got it, and it wasn't an issue, and that's usually what happens. Once it's kind of put to rest, it's put to rest.
Thoughts on playing a 4-hour, 6-minute football game?
There's a lot of reviews.
Yeah.
I think it's the first game too. It was long. I mean, the short answer is it was long. If I was going to be in defense, I would say, there's a lot of eyes on that game. It was the most watched Thursday night football game in 5+ years. So there's a lot of eyes on it. They wanted to make sure they got things decided. But it was long. There were some plays that probably went to review that as the season goes, they won't go to review. But, that's a question for Greg and the league. But, yeah, it was long.
Your thoughts on your tight ends, especially O'Loughlin, coming back?
Yeah, when you think about it, he really only practiced with contact for about 10 to 12 days. He was here in fall camp and obviously did some walkthrough things, but only practiced full speed for about 10 to 12 days. First couple plays, and he'll tell you they were ugly. He fell down, I think, but he improved as it went. And I like what we got out of that room. We had a couple other pass plays called for him where we just, for whatever reason, couldn't get on the ball. He had Miko had the huge play on the last possession of the game, and we blocked really well at the point of attack. Anytime you run the ball versus that quality of a front and that quality of a defense, somebody that's been that good against the run, that means your tight ends had a pretty good day, and they did. Palende had a slow start too, speedy of the game, but he settled in and did a nice job as well.
Thoughts on Dante? How do you think Dante played?
Yeah, it's his best football game. Best football game he's played in his career. He played within the scheme, was still really productive, created opportunities for other guys to make plays. He was mentally in the game, the best shape he's ever been in. He looked like what we expect him to look like. But I thought, and you can ask Jordan the same, but I felt like it was his best complete football game that he's played in our time here.
So it was the other things, the intangible, the things you've been
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, we talk about this, and this is something I talk with him individually, but I talk to our team about, is your statistics don't always tell a story. Sometimes Jared Bartlett might get a sack, but Dante made the play. And what I mean by that, he might have created a double team that got Jared freed up. Or, Taj Austin might come in on a stunt, and he does such a good job going up and under that it might have freed Dante to get the sack. Well, Taj really made the play. Dante got the stat, but Taj made the play. And so statistically, Dante had a good game, but also he created opportunities by making plays so the other guys could get statistics too within the framework of the defense, which is a credit to him.
Right tackle for you. First of all, were you a little sneaky in the pregame with your alignment, and then?
I don't even know how we lined up in pregame, Greg, honestly. So.
Well, Nestor wasn't at right tackle in pregame.
Yeah,
but then obviously started.
you'd have to ask Matt that. We don't do any 11-on-11 work, so I went down there with the O-line, so that wasn't by plan because of me. Now Matt may have done that, but no. So really, what it came down to is those five had the best camp. And Jordan White, his consistency throughout earned him the opportunity to play, and then. Doug has improved his lateral agility, and that gave him an opportunity to play on the edge. So if Jordan he doesn't get to full speed, then Doug can always bounce back, and then Brandon or Jaquay can come in and play. But that was kind of the thought process. I'll say this: Doug and Zach Frazier, they both played at a really, really high level in that game.
I know you mentioned the drops, and that's whatever. It doesn't have to come up. But did they get open enough? Did they help JT enough? Did you have enough people in the lineup? It wasn't a ton of snaps, so it's not like you were fatigued, I'm guessing. But.
Well, offensively, we snapped the ball quite a bit because how that freak, the freak play. So we got a whole nother possession that they didn't have. They only played 63. Now we called. I don't have it right in front of me, Mike, but I want to say we called upwards of 80 snaps. Yeah, we've got plenty of guys in the rotation. We got to continue. Jeremiah missed some camp time. Jeremiah Aaron missed some camp time with an injury. So he's a guy that we want to get in the rotation that didn't play the other night. I think Cortez can give us some more. I thought Bryce, I said this after the game, and he played really at a high level, and on punt team and at receiver. And there was a couple balls that he had opportunities to make plays on, and I hate it for him the play that people remember, but he played at a high level, and that's the best. You take a couple plays out, that's the best he's played here. And that's the way he's worked, really, going back to January up until now. He's been a different guy as far as work ethic and just his level of plays increased. We've got Sam and KP. We've got to get them some more opportunities. They can do a better job of getting open as well. And so, yeah, we've got enough guys. We're talented enough in that room. We just got to be more consistent making plays, which we believe we will.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you all.